Hello and welcome to the L15 weekly podcast, giving you the latest news, views and opinions from the football world. Well, for me, this is a completely unplanned, a bit surprised episode for me to give to you. What a way to start and spend the 10th episode than talking about something that has really hit the football world hard, and indeed the rest of the world hard, with the COVID-19, if you'd rather. We're going to be talking about that today. There's not really much else we can talk about. There's barely any leagues open across the world, and that's quite upsetting. You know, that really hits home a bit when there's no football to watch. You know, obviously all of you viewers at home will be football fans. There's no football anywhere that I'm looking at the moment that is open. You know, you've got so many teams that are without games. You've got so many teams that are without training as a team together. A lot of players have been playing and at home and training at home and getting themselves fit, hopefully ready for the season to start again very soon. But it's a bit of a surprising podcast for me to make this week. It wasn't one I hoped to make. This week I hope to review the final set of Champions League fixtures. I hope to talk about all of the championship fixtures from the weekend and all the championship fixtures from midweek. There would have been two huge games of Brentford and West Brom, and Leeds United and Fulham. And a couple of Champions League games in there. Barcelona, Napoli still to be decided. Bayern Munich as good as through against Chelsea, but God knows what would have happened. Man City, Real Madrid, Lyon, Juventus. Could Juventus have come back? Everton, Liverpool on last Monday. You know, there's plenty of games that we could have spoke about. Tottenham and United, just reeling off a few here. There's just so much that we could have talked about in this episode, and it's such a shame that we're not able to share that with you and not able to discuss that with you. It's a shame that we're only able to discuss something which has shocked the world and the footballing world to its core, really. You thought maybe postponed might be okay. We just have to go a little while without some football of some proximity. You thought the Premier League wasn't going to get cancelled, but at least the FA, Premier League, EFL and Women's Professional Game have said that the season won't be terminated and they will be playing, but it will be postponed until the 30th of April, which is really good for me and really good for you guys as football fans. Which I'm really happy to say that to you, because usually I'm quite upbeat on this podcast, but now there's nothing really to talk about football wise, and that is quite upsetting, really. As a football fan myself, West Brom fan, go every week, season ticket holder, it's really hits home when you've got nothing to look forward to apart from playing a game of FIFA, that's football wise, and it's very upsetting. And there's actually one league that's still kicking, and that will be the Belarus Premier League, the only league, professional league, I do apologise, that is still playing and has just started. It's just amazing how one league in the entire world, one professional league, is kicking the ball and nobody else is. As football around the world shut down amid the coronavirus pandemic, the defiant Belarus kicked off its new season on Thursday and said it would even allow spectators to watch the games. There are several hundred fans watching the first game of the Belarus Premier League, with a 3-1 win for Energetic BGU against Bat Borisov. So there's one team. The head of the Football Federation in Belarus, Vladimir Bazanov, said on its official website that only 51 cases of coronavirus had been recorded in the country, and there was no reason to stop the season beginning. And he said, for what reason should we not start it? Is a state of the emergency declared in our country? He said, there is no critical situation, so we're deciding to start the championship in a timely manner. And he said there's no point in barring the public, as many leagues did before they eventually suspended games altogether. So it's very mad, It's going to have massive consequences, and we're going to talk about those in a minute, of the sort of consequences that teams are going to have. So I think one of the positives that have come out of the recent games being cancelled is the National League still goes ahead as usual, which is really good to see, because, talking about the consequences here, if coronavirus were to shut down National League games and cancel those and stop attendances, some of those clubs would fold, and that would be incredibly sad to see. You've seen Bury and you've seen Bolton. You've seen them both in financial disarray. You've seen Bury be shut down straight away. Bolton with a significant point deduction that they're having to deal with now. Bury, unfortunately, no longer. But the National League, if teams down there were shut off, and they were, their gate receipts are really pivotal to their financial survival and the complete survival of the club. So the fact that they are allowed to stay open, they're allowing people to come as I think it was 5,000 people came to one of the games recently. Notts County came to over 5,000. So there's plenty of fans that follow that level of the game, and there's plenty of fans keeping that open. And that's really good to see, the fact that the National League stays open. But for teams below the Championship, I'd say it's going to be quite difficult for them to stay afloat, really. Bolton, think about Bolton. They're already in a bit of trouble anyway, with the financial problems that they've been in. But they are 14th in the table. They're quite a few points cut adrift of the relegation zone. They're in fact a mighty. How many is that? Actually, looking at that, it's 21 points away from AFC Wimbledon, who are just outside the relegation zone. But the fact that they've already been in problems really is not good. And hopefully they'll get a slice of this 50 million bailout from the EFL during the COVID-19 crisis. And they're facing quite a few tough decisions at the moment, Bolton. They're really struggling to stay afloat, if you like. It's quite upsetting to see football clubs being caused problems. They're looking at closing their training ground, and that's not going to be good. And several local sides have issued their players with individual training plans. And Bolton have talked about people, they're going to go down Bolton, but can they come back next season? But they won't be if this coronavirus stops them getting vital gate receipts and vital money towards their club to let them run, and that's going to be heartbreaking. It'll also probably have wider consequences for teams above the conference, teams in League 2, teams in League 1, we talked about Bolton. Teams in League 1 and the Championship probably won't be as affected as their gate receipts don't count for as much as perhaps the lower tiers. Premier League teams, you'd probably think they'll be fine, hopefully, and you'd probably think a lot of top tier across Europe and across the rest of the world would be fine. But teams below the top tier, you'd start to look and think, can you survive without gate receipts, and can you survive without any match income or any TV coverage or any sponsorships? And you'll hope that all the teams that can survive, and this COVID-19 virus does not end up breaking quite a lot of clubs, and that'd be really bad to see if a lot of clubs ended up folding because of this horrible virus. It's time for my opinion, really, on whether the season should continue, or on whether it should be null and void, whether nobody should get a trophy, whether the people should get a trophy, whether people should go down. I'm going to just talk about the Premier League and the Championship. I'm probably best educated on those divisions. So I'm going to start with the Premier League, and I think that Liverpool should be allowed the league, and that nobody should go down at the Premier League. I think the idea of having a break, and if the season were to be null and void, this is if the season is null and void, Liverpool should have the league. But I think the idea is to minimise losses, because if teams start going down, at the moment, in the Premier League, there's a lot of teams that would be fighting around the relegation zone. And it would be interesting to see who actually would stay up. But at the moment, it would be Norwich, Villa, and Bournemouth who were to go down. And I don't think it's particularly fair that they would be to go down. I think that those three should all stay up. Same with every team in the Premier League. But I also have to look at the Championship. And you may think I'm just saying this because I'm a West Brom fan. I am. But Leeds and West Brom should go up. A lot of money has been ploughed into promotion campaigns here. and staying in the Championship another season, it's almost like going down when you've ploughed money in like Leeds, like West Brom have, and it'd be unfair not for them not to go up. So I think they should make it a 22-man season, maybe 5 relegation zones, maybe even 3 relegation zones. We'll have to see what they decide to do about that. But if the season can continue, that's obviously the best possible option for me. You'd always want the season to continue if it can. Euro 2020 is now Euro 2021 next year, which is okay. We can deal with that. There's still a tournament, and we might get Premier League football during the summer. But the most important thing is that clubs are preserved, players are preserved, and everybody is okay. So thank you for listening to this podcast. It's not been the upbeat, usual sort of pop journalism that you usually hear on L15 Weekly, and it's been quite short, and I apologise for that, but there's not really much I can report on. But let's just hope that all football teams, all football clubs, all football leagues can stay as intact as they were before this coronavirus came about. So but if you are out and about and you're not self-isolating, you're going around and you're helping others, and you're just living out your life. There's 5 pieces of advice that the World Health Organization are given, which I'm also going to share with you. Do the 5, it's called, which I've noticed that has come a lot on Twitter. The first one is hands. Make sure you wash your hands often. Make sure you cough into your elbow. Make sure you don't touch your face. Make sure you stay more than a metre apart, and make sure if you feel sick, stay at home. Don't go to work. School's been cancelled, but don't go to work. Don't go out. Just stay at home. Let's try and contain the spread of this virus. If you're self-isolating, or people that are self-isolating, be neighbourly, be helpful. Come out. Give them supplies, give them things that they might need. Don't stockpile toilet paper out the shops. That is probably not the idea. I know this is probably the first time we ventured away from football, but don't stockpile toilet paper. There are people who really need it. A lot of the elderly with underlying health issues will be self-isolating over the coming months, weeks, whatever it is. So it would be beneficial if people don't. If people who don't really need all this toilet paper, all the fresh food, groceries, that they don't stockpile it when they don't really need it. If you know any old people who are self-isolating, be neighbourly, be helpful, and go and give them as many supplies as you can. This is probably the most heartfelt thing we've done on this podcast, really. But thank you very much for listening. Please stay safe, and thank you very much for listening. If you want to go and check out Twitter, I'll be on there posting regularly. Instagram as well. If you want to hear anything I may have to say on the matters, or if you want to know about players from past and present, I might be doing that on Twitter in the coming days, so please go and check that out at L15 Weekly. And remember, stay safe. Thank you very much for listening to the L15 Weekly podcast. See you next time.